You are going to be okay. Because sometimes it's just best to sit in a feeling and then acknowledge what that feeling may or may not be signaling. Welcome back to my hashtag 75 soft reflection and recap video. So I would normally have the weekly reflection. However, the end of the year got to me with my seasonal allergies. So for everyone who is suffering from seasonal allergies, I definitely feel you as the season changes, the dryness in the air. So what was helpful in this challenge was a reminder to make sure that I am drinking my daily water intake. The first highlight for me would be completing Sheila Johnson's memoir. She did get to experience her next act in life, which I appreciated reading, seeing how she came to terms with a next stage of life. She became an entrepreneur, opened up a luxury resort, purchased a basketball team, and she was able to heal. She ends her epilogue by speaking to her younger self. She states, "If I can go back into time and talk to my younger self, I would tell her this: trust your instincts, get to know who you are before you give yourself to someone else, believe that you can find happiness and that you deserve it. You are going to be okay. You are going to be okay." I thought this was such a beautiful way to end her memoir because she often circled back to talking to herself, particularly in stating like she did not want this for herself when thinking about her first marriage. She wanted to be in and sustain a healthy marriage. However, her divorce allowed her to heal, to trust herself, to enter into the next act. While she is grateful and recognize that she needed her first act, she needed to walk through the fire and come out triumphant. It was all a part of her journey. So I did appreciate reading a happy ending or happy continuation. And I know we see, well, I see a lot on my feed about folks entering into new acts, into new chapters, making major transitions, whether or not that's a career shift, whether or not that's relocating abroad, entering into motherhood. That has been on a lot of my feeds, I would say, this entire year. So it was beautiful to read someone's story who was able to realize that she entered into a space where she was safe, where she was able to heal from her previous experiences, and also to find love within herself, for herself. And also, she gave herself the permission to romantically fall in love again. So I enjoyed the full circle of her journey. The fact that when she opened up her resort, that her mother was able to be there, that her mother said, "I'm going to see you at the opening," because her mother was ill during that time. And her mother telling her, like, you needed the first act of your life in order for you to get this far. And she accepted that. So I think when folks are making major pivots in life and major transitions, it's important to remind ourselves, to remind myself, to give myself time to transition into new seasons. Although the change may be a good change, entering into a new chapter still takes a renegotiations, compromising, learning, forgiveness, grace. And I was watching something, and I'll see if I can find it. in which she said, I believe it was actually therapy for Black girls. And the guest said, recently I learned about the arrival fallacy. Like once I arrive at this place, that everything will be okay. However, life is a journey, and some periods of life can be more calm than others because we can't control a lot of circumstances. So I was grateful to read a memoir for someone who realized that for 30 years, she wasn't in the best predicament. However, she still used that chapter of her life in order to grant her wisdom. And she recognized that she needed to heal. So she gave herself that time to heal and went through that process. And it's beautiful. I think it's necessary. Like these stories are necessary because for me, it's a reminder that each journey is unique, each timeline is unique. And so long as you are living and capable, you can continue to arrive at a better self, however you define that better self. And I think in reading Sheila Johnson's memoir, for her, it was to live in a space in which she trusted herself and she knew of her capabilities because she did so many things in life. However, for a large portion of her life, she wasn't supported and wasn't uplifted. The ending of her memoir read like a happy ending, which I'm always appreciative to read someone's happy ending or rather happy continuation. That even though the journey may have been difficult and arduous in a lot of ways, that she arrived at a happy place. I love to see it. I love to see people win and help others to win. Sheila Johnson arrives in her next act in her 50s. And it reminds me of a recent conversation I had with a dear friend of what am I learning about myself as I get older and having to go through certain predicaments, such circumstances. And what really stood out to me in our conversation is that the recognition of, oh, because I'm older, I'm aware that emotions are telling me something that I need to sit with. That a lot of the big emotions that perhaps when we were younger that we didn't know how to process or place them, that sometimes it's just best to sit in a feeling and then acknowledge what that feeling may or may not be signaling as we are getting older and being okay with that. And that conversation came right on time. I had just started a hike. I entered into a different area of the trail that I was accustomed to. So it was just readjusting to this new environment. Like I never had been on that trail. And it was us discussing the questions of like, how do I manage stressful times? And for me, it was discussing managing post-life care, post-life task, and the emotion that goes into being a part of a community that's bereaving and accepting that as I'm getting older, there's a self-awareness that comes with stressful times and knowing that it's important to recenter and come back to oneself to actually feel and grieve. I think a lot of post-life care can feel as though checking off the list and not knowing how to exist in spaces of sadness, in spaces of surrender into a new unknown. And I appreciated the conversations that I had with Sierra and talking about how do we live now with ancestors. And also the conversation that I had with Anglecia and hearing her grandmother's voice, like her grandmother's voice being a voice of guidance to her when she's doing something well, maybe when she needs to reconsider something. So for me, it's now living in that reality. Like, how do I enter into this space and accept and feel the waves of emotions that comes along with this this new space? Yeah. So my highlights for the working out portion of this week was being on a hike, talking to a dear friend, processing the space that I'm in, and also getting his feedback and learning about how he processes things. So this 75 soft challenge has reminded me of the importance of taking time to think, slow down while in the midst of the heaviness. On a lighter note, I did make the fried oyster mushrooms, which were pretty good. I hadn't made it in a couple of years, and I was craving fried oyster mushrooms. I like the texture of it. It's like a fleshy texture. So I found a recipe online, modified it, and I think I only needed to probably do one dip rather than the two. So the texture was a little bit thicker, but also I made some salads, which were easy lunches, quick, nutritious lunches to make. I always like to use either spinach or spring mix, add some hemp seeds to it, peppers, sometimes add a protein on top with some olive oil and balsamic vinegar. Definitely will keep that in the rotation. In regards to eating healthily, this challenge just reminded me to circle back to things that I haven't eaten in a while. So thank you for joining me on this hashtag 75 Salt Challenge journey. My next video and the last video in this series will talk about just overall reflection on this hashtag 75 Salt Challenge. I know that in the new year, folks like to reassess how they would like to navigate the year. This challenge also reminded me that it doesn't matter what month or quarter it is in the year per se, that I can always start anew. So if you are looking to revamp some things, to do a self audit, I would definitely recommend looking into the hashtag 75 soft or medium hard, whatever is easeful for you, and also to define success for yourself and going in this challenge. So if you're interested in revisiting or sitting in a conversation about relationships with ancestors, I would definitely recommend you listen to the Liberate Journey podcast. You can check out episodes 305 with Dr. Anglecia Brown and 312 with Sierra McKissick. So thank you again for joining me on this journey. As always, love is real and eternal. In community, peace.